To talk to you today. This is a spur of the moment show, but TJ Watt, huge news just came out of the NFL. TJ Watt just became the highest non QB playing, highest paid player in the NFL. So this is huge news. Wanted to cover it as soon as it came out. So here we are right now. Just bear with me. I'm actually going to share the article and we'll actually dive into what happened a little bit. So like I said, TJ Watt, highest paid non QB player in the NFL. This comes after a long-standing negotiation apparently happened over months between his agent CAA and the Pittsburgh Steelers, again making him the highest paid player in the NFL. Only a short few months after his opponent and fellow AFC North opponent Myles Garrett got paid on an average of $40 million a year. As you can see this, again, I talked about this on another show. A lot of times the next person up, again, this is warranted. This isn't just some other edge rusher. This is TJ Watt, who has his own pedigree and an outstanding career already with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But he just got paid right before training camp starts with an average payment of $41 million a year. I won't be able to go too much into the details. Not enough details have really come out yet on the actual deal itself. But I will talk a little bit about how this impacts not only TJ Watt, the Pittsburgh Steelers, but what else this is going to look like for other edge rushers around the NFL that are still trying to get paid. Two names come to mind. It's Micah Parsons for the Dallas Cowboys, a young stud edge rusher, and then obviously Trey Hendrickson for the Cincinnati Bengals, another AFC North edge rusher who actually led the NFL in sacks last year, is also looking to get paid around the same amount. And I have a feeling that with this contract going through, the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be they're going to have to account for this contract, and this gives, I would say, Trey Hendrickson even more leverage in his negotiations. So again, really quickly going into this, for me, very happy for TJ Watt. Right, TJ Watt has played his entire career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, has had nothing but an impressive career the entire time he's been there. You can see here, he led the NFL with 73.5 sacks over the past 5 seasons, right? That's in 5 seasons. That's not averaging just 10 a season, right? You're talking about 14, 15, 16 sacks a season in order to get to these numbers. That is Pro Bowl caliber numbers. That is all pro caliber numbers right there. Really, I think the one interesting aspect of this contract, and I'm curious to see if this was a major point of contention throughout the entire negotiations, but you can see here, this was a 3-year extension. Now, I talked a little bit about the fact that TJ Watt is a little bit older in the NFL. When it comes to, someone like a Micah Parsons, he's much more likely to get a longer term deal, but TJ Watt probably was fighting for that $40 million mark, and it seems the Steelers were happy to get there, but probably a little bit shorter of terms than what TJ Watt was looking for. But as you can see, they did find an agreement. He's getting paid $123 million over 3 years. Again, $41 million average a year getting paid to TJ Watt. Very happy for him. Let's look a little bit more as to, what this actually looks like for the Steelers, and this is kind of interesting. So first off, I was taking a look at their contracts. TJ Watt was already the highest paid player on the team, right? Let me move myself a little bit over here. I apologize about that. 1 second. I'll actually move myself over here. So TJ Watt, already the highest paid player on the team, right? I'll show you this here. He was averaging about $30 million a year from a cap hits perspective, which is already $10 million over his nearest teammate, Cameron Hayward. So as you can see, there is obviously a huge hike in what that average pay per year would look like. I'm now looking at this, and you can even see Jalen Ramsey is on here. His cap hit is only about 4.9, so I wasn't sure if this was fully up to date, but seems to be the case here. But yeah, TJ Watt, highest paid player by a mile currently for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wanted to go in a little bit into his stats and show you what this actually looks like. And we'll do this sort of a year by year basis, because I think this says a lot about the player he is, and why he deserves that large contract. I'm gonna move myself. There we go. So first things first. First year, 2017. Probably his least productive year of his career, besides a year where he was injured. But he still had 7 sacks. And I'm not going to go through all these years, but I do want to show you these numbers, right? Look at these numbers per year from a sack perspective: 13, 14 and a half, 15, 22 and a half, 5.5. Again, that was when he had an injury that season. He only played 10 games. But then he came back 19 sacks in 2023 and 11.5 sacks last year in 2024. A lot of people will say that would be a down year. I think he was facing some injuries, not necessarily anything that was keeping him out of the games. As you can see, he participated in all the games. Still considered a down year, but he's 31 years old. I still think he's got a lot left in the tank, and I expect him to have another, 10 plus sack year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who continuously invest in their defense. Looking at some of the contracts around the NFL, when it comes to edge rushers, I thought this was kind of interesting, just to give you an idea of what this looks like currently. Again, hasn't been updated. The news about TJ Watt just came out. The internet hasn't caught up to it quite yet, so I apologize about this. But again, you can see here, Myles Garrett, 30 years old. He's making an average of $40 million a year. Danielle Hunter, not necessarily right behind him, but he's second with 35.6. And then Max Crosby with $35.5 million a year. So you're going to see TJ Watt at the top of this list in the next probably couple of minutes, maybe hour, once Over the Cap updates its numbers here. But again, $41 million a year as a non-quarterback player. This is super impactful for not just TJ Watt, but the entire NFL. Providing contracts like this, again, to non-quarterback players is becoming the norm now, right? You saw it with Myles Garrett, and I think a lot of people, when looking at the Myles Garrett contract, were probably thinking to themselves, the Browns were just doing this because Myles Garrett requested a trade, right? Myles Garrett requested a trade after the end of last year, and it was about a week and a half later you see this groundbreaking, record-breaking contract being signed, right? TJ Watt didn't necessarily have to request a trade. He wasn't sitting out during the offseason. He wasn't a part of mandatory minicamp or any of the other offseason training schedule for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sure they probably already knew that he was working out on his own and was going to be ready for the season. He is, again, an ultimate pro. He is an all-pro edge rusher. But being able to get this in just before training camp, there's a lot of, I would say, advantages to getting this done. One, it's not going to be on the Steelers' minds anymore. It's not going to be on TJ Watt's mind anymore. But not just that, he's going to be happy. He's going to be all cylinders moving forward with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hopefully, probably ending his career with the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe after this contract. I'm not 100% sure if he wants to play any longer after that, but we'll have to see. Now, when I talked about this and how this will impact those other players, right? There's 2 players that really come to mind when it comes to those looking for another contract. Again, it's Trey Hendrickson, who you can actually see right here, who's averaging about $21 million a year. And then you have Micah Parsons, who I'm not sure where he would necessarily be on this list. He is coming off that he is still on a rookie contract, and so he's still trying to get that large contract, his first contract, after his rookie deal, which generally is the largest you'll see. So he is another person that seems to be next on this list. I guess the question really is, do you want to be Micah Parsons? Do you want to be Trey Hendrickson in this situation? And then on top of that, do you try to wait even longer, right? Like, if you're Micah Parsons, do you try to wait for the Bengals to give Trey Hendrickson potentially $41.5 million or $41.1 million? Are the Cincinnati Bengals even going to be able to do that? Are they willing to do that? I'm not really sure. I think Again, Trey Hendrickson is someone that was looking for a 4 to 5 year deal. I'm assuming, and I'm pretty sure TJ Watt was looking for the same thing. It seems like they had to find a middle ground in Pittsburgh. Is Cincinnati and Trey Hendrickson going to be able to do the same thing? Now, from a Michael Parsons perspective, everything I'm hearing, everything he is saying seems to be he is not concerned about what is going to happen with this contract. He's pretty confident he will be receiving this contract, but I don't think he really is too concerned with having to hold out or do anything along those lines. It seems to me he's pretty confident in what's going to happen there. I think the biggest impact this will have on any other team will be on that Cincinnati Bengals squad, just because, again, AFC North opponent in the Pittsburgh Steelers, AFC opponent in the Cleveland Browns, right? Myles Garrett, TJ Watt just got paid. Oh, by the way, Trey Hendrickson, Myles Garrett right here, right? So Trey Hendrickson, 17 and a half sacks last year. Myles Garrett, 14. Again, TJ Watt, 11 and a half, right? Trey Hendrickson has every piece of collateral he could possibly need in order to, and piece of leverage to say, I deserve $40+ million. He can even say now, I deserve $41 million, right? That is something that is very possible in this situation. And so I think that contract with TJ Watt, again, it doesn't just impact TJ Watt and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to impact multiple players, again, like Trey Hendrickson, like Micah Parsons. I'll have more on this once more details come out about the actual contract itself. Really just wanted to share with you the news. I was excited to talk about it. I think this is going to be really interesting to see what happens moving forward in the AFC North. Obviously have a lot of pressure provided from a defensive perspective, and so I think there's going to be a lot of competition. Let me know what you think. Happy to hear any sort of takes you have on this. Do you think this is a good contract? Do you think this is a bad contract? Is TJ Watt going to live up to this contract, right? Tell me all of that. Happy to hear it. Thank you for tuning in again for another Bad Takes in Football. This is Bad